Hi everyone, my name is Mediachain. Thank you so much for joining us for the second day and the second panel of the Women Rise lead up event to the launch. We're like 2 days away from the launch. It's absolutely crazy, but I'm so excited for this panel of the Women Rise lead up event. Oh, sorry, I could hear myself. Sorry for a second. Yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm super excited for this panel. I'm sure we all will leave inspired and leave um, that feeling like we learned something new. Abbey from Women Rise, she's our awesome community manager. She's the one moderating the panel. So I'm just going to leave everything onto her and switch off my camera. But I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm super excited to be celebrating these incredible women in tech.
So hey everyone, thanks so much Malia for that wonderful intro to us. Yeah, we're super excited about this panel as well. I'm joined by some wonderful women in the tech world and industry, and excited for the conversation to go. So I'm just gonna introduce by how you guys appear on my screen. I don't know if it's the same for you guys. So I'll give a little bit of background and then you guys can deep dive into yourself as well. So first, I would love to introduce Kyla Palenko or Kai Palenko. She's the platform creative director at Feminist. She's a digital creative who's committed to equity and equality for all. So we have Kyla first.
Hey, hello world. Yes, Feminist is a community of 6.4 global feminists who are, like you said, committed to equality and equity for all. I run the behind the scenes, and I'm really here today because as we continue to grow and build our platform, we see Web 3.0 as the next space to really, to be a feminist space and for feminists to seek more opportunities.
Thanks, Kai. Next, I have Brittany Laughlin. I think that's how you say your name. She is the executive director at Stacks Foundation, and she's spent the last decade working at the intersection of community, capital, and internet collection. So Brittany, you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I head up the Stacks Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that's supporting the development of a user on the internet. And this is where users get to own the value that they create. So Stacks is a blockchain technology that makes it super easy to do these things, like creating NFTs or DeFi or all of these other use cases that we're just seeing emerge on Web3. So you can learn more about the Stacks Foundation at stacks.org. But I've been in the Web3 space now for close to 7 years, starting out as a venture capital investor and then moving into becoming an operator in the space, really helping build and now supporting builders like you to make their NFT dreams or whatever they are come true with Web3. That's a bit about me. Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. And next I have Susan Park, and she's the UX designer at Google. She is also a very strong advocate for women in tech and crypto space, particularly in the crypto space as well. So let's hear from you, Susan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talking with all these amazing ladies. But I am a UX designer at Google. I've been in the tech kind of realm as a designer for almost 10 years, and I'm just excited to see the rise of Web3 and NFTs and see how I can inject myself into this world as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Vanessa Grellet. She's the head of portfolio growth at CoinFund, and she assists companies grow successfully on the blockchain.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. CoinFund is one of the early investors in NFTs and NFT infrastructure. We invested very early in Dapper Labs and Rarible or Upshot. And prior to CoinFund, I was at Consensus and was also very early in the NFT space. So really excited to see how NFTs and unlocking the creator economy can help foster diversity and raise women up.
We love that. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And thanks so much, ladies, for all joining us. We're so excited to deep dive into this talk. I'm just so blessed to be on this panel with all you amazing women in tech. I think we should start with how we all got into the tech industry and world. I'll just let you know myself as well. So I work for a venture build studio as well. And we have companies in all sectors of the tech industry, from fintech, health tech to blockchain, crypto, really everything. So Web 3.0, green tech. So we cover everything. So I get a little dabble in it all. And then on top of it, the community manager here at Women Rise. So it's really exciting to listen to you ladies' stories as well. And yeah, so I love to hear how you got into the tech spaces yourselves as women.
Are we playing popcorn here, or should we go in order?
Anyone can go in.
Go for it, Kai.
We're always wanting to bring more women in, so I'd love to hear how you ladies got into this space.
For sure. So I suppose I was working in fashion when it was the early Instagram days, and I saw that brands weren't able to authentically and meaningfully connect with communities, especially because there was kind of a gap between what people wanted to see on social media and what brands thought people wanted. Really, it's totally different. And so I thought that this was an interesting opportunity in creating content and how to really revolutionize the way you portray messages to the world and the community and kind of build communities at the same time. So I went to Stockholm and I did a post-grad degree in digital strategy, and that was amazing, cool, just different way of thinking experience, which kind of lent me into how to idealize as a feminist and nuanced approaches to how we solve bigger problems. And then came back to New York and I got the call of my lifetime. I was pretty excited. Diane von Furstenberg herself called me and said she wanted me to rebuild her entire Instagram community and rebuild the platform. Well, that was the first time where I saw that a mission-driven business could really, intersect with culture and fashion in a way to connect with community. And so fast forward to Feminist now, I run the behind the scenes there, and we're building a platform where we think that community can not only, be enriched, enlightened, and be educated through content, but also what are other ways for us to connect? How do we connect this, the work of activists and creators, not only through uplifting their messages, but also in a way that activists and creators can be directly supported by the feminist community. So that's kind of how everything came together for me. And yeah, that's where we are today.
Great. I'll take over next if we're going in order. Yeah, I think for me, I got to see that the internet was the most powerful tool that our generation has to get involved and have our voices heard, be able to make change. And so it was actually at South by Southwest, maybe a decade ago, that I kind of saw all of this energy and excitement around the internet. And that led me to starting my own company. A second company, raised venture capital. I exited those companies, got invited to join Union Square Ventures, which is a Series A investment firm in New York City, and really got to see the power of the internet there. They invested in companies like Twitter and Kickstarter and Stack Overflow and SoundCloud and all of these amazing online networks that enabled creators to take back a lot of the power and really build businesses online. And I think it wasn't until I saw the emergence of Web3, like blockchains, that I really realized what was going to come after that, because a lot of power was getting sucked up to Facebook and Google. So how are new entrepreneurs or creators going to participate? And it's through Web3, and we've seen that especially lately, that it is now the place where if you're a builder or you're a creator, that you can really own the impact of your ideas. You can collaborate with people anywhere in the world. And so that powerful technology led me to kind of go full board into working in crypto about 3 years ago. So I'm really excited to be here and to see so many other people who are bringing their ideas to life through these platforms, and especially through this new tech, which it can be pretty overwhelming to learn it if you're brand new, but it definitely is just filled with so many amazing creators, so many diverse backgrounds, so many interesting ideas. So I would love to see more people get involved, but that was kind of my path down this rabbit hole.
Awesome. I can go next. So I actually studied kind of going all the way back to college. I studied design and human computer interaction. So I was always interested in kind of going into the tech industry and tech world. And when I first graduated, I was really interested in starting my own company as well. So I co-founded this kind of drone startup. And again, I was just really interested in new technologies, and that completely failed, unlike Brittany. That didn't work out too well. But then I joined another startup in Silicon Valley as number 10, and sought that through for many rounds, and then now I'm just at Google trying to see how big companies, how design is run. And so that's kind of how I'm trying to understand how product design is run at different companies at various sizes with different technologies. And I'm really excited for Web3 and the impact that great user experience can have on these new products, because again, it is such a complicated space that there's not a lot of attention to UX and design yet, and I think that does affect the success of companies now that we're getting a little bit further into it. So very excited to be here.
So the way I stumbled, I would say, into Web3 is maybe a bit unusual, but maybe the experience of a lot of people. I started working in financial services. I worked there for 15 years, and working at the New York Stock Exchange, in that sense, we were a technology company. We were selling technology to other exchanges, and so I was working a lot with our IT teams at the time. Then when I left, I was in New York and going to a lot of the New York technology meetups at the time. And they were prolific. There was enterprise technology. There was, more consumer technology. And then at one of the meetups, there was a presentation about the Bitcoin Center in New York, which was downtown. And so I was a little bit intrigued because it was related to trading and what I had seen before. And so I went to that center and was a little bit overwhelmed by what was happening there. And so discovered Bitcoin and the community. And then sort of was not really engaged and did not pay that much attention to it. But, I was following it. And then I stumbled into Ethereum as I was fundraising for another company and Joseph Lubin at Consensus. And I immediately, saw the value proposition of what Ethereum and Web3 was bringing to the world, and jumped ship and joined the company very early on. And stayed there for about 5 years. So sometimes it's, intentional. Sometimes it's a little bit less intentional. But I think what's important is to always be curious and look at what's out there, and then you can find opportunities.
That's great. I totally agree with all you ladies on that as well. And sorry, my AirPods just died. So I'm just taking them out. But I totally agree with you all on that too. And I think you led into the next topic really well with Web3. And, it's inevitable. We're already pretty much there. And makes you think about Web 2 and the mistakes we made and how to avoid them moving forward into Web 3. So I'd like to hear any thoughts on that.
How much time do we have? It's a loaded question. Go for it, Brittany.
Oh, well, I think just, for folks that maybe aren't familiar with like Web 2, but this is like the, user generated content era of like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Pinterest and all of these. And I think what we've seen with those emergence is it was great because it allowed people to actually participate in the web and make it really easy. But the challenge with that is that a lot of those businesses have really strong network effects, which mean that like the more people that use it, the harder it is for another competing company to come and try and disrupt that business. And so that's meant that a lot of power has gotten aggregated to these big players like Google and Facebook and Amazon, where it's hard for smaller companies to compete. And that's not totally a bad thing, but what we have focused on at the Stacks Foundation is like, how do you give more power back to users? Because the Google story is that they originally thought of, their motto was, don't be evil. And that means that they had so much power that they actually could be evil and take control of people's data, or, misrepresent things or direct you to different web pages than that may be the best ones for you. So we thought with Web3, like, why not create it can't be evil, which means that no single company has so much power that they can control users' data or can control what users see or how they experience the internet. So for Web3, the goal is really, how do we give power back to individuals? And I think that that's a benefit for the user, that they get to, be free with their data. They don't have to worry as much about things getting compromised, but it also creates a lot of responsibility on the user to participate, to manage your data or your blockchain crypto keys very well, to take on a lot of the infrastructure that used to be done for us for free by paying with our data. Now we get those that more power, but also like more responsibility. So to me, we're constantly thinking about how do we make it easier for folks to own their own data and to build apps that are, can't be evil, not just don't be evil. But I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes we're focused on. But I'm curious what other people, see as some of the other mistakes that we can avoid.
I don't know if I would call them mistakes, but I see two things creeping into Web3 recently, which is, Web2 mechanisms as we go mainstream and trying to, in the acquisition of customers and clients, and solutions trying to leverage the data in the Web3 context. And as these companies scale and grow and are more consumer facing, we'll see more and more of that, which is, kind of against the ethos of Web3. So just, be on the lookout for that. And then the other thing is not understanding what decentralization means and going quickly on non-decentralized solutions to, take quickly a profit or get people in their comfort zone, in the Web2 comfort zone, and give them the same value proposition. So I think those are the two pitfalls that I hope we'll be able to avoid, but I see them creeping in already.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. I agree with both Brittany and Vanessa, because I do see, I work at the enemy at Google. I'm really interested in Web3 because I do see the blurring of the lines between the purpose of Web3 and then people centralizing because people are kind of used to it, or that's kind of how people are getting their community and building, and it's again difficult to see because the point of Web3 is not doing that, but the success that we've seen is when people centralize. So how do we kind of separate that and make the decentralization like tactics and that approach successful, and like keep making other like Web3 companies successful in that, and then have them set the example for other companies. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a good point too.
Yeah, and to kind of add to all that, I think at the root of it is that Web 2 was kind of built on systems of like oppression. And I like to kind of think about it from a community perspective as like a one-way street where, we give, like Brittany had mentioned, so much data, so much time, so much like personal information and simply like, you know, engagement that ultimately is like at an inherent bias where the user is ever really rewarded or given any sort of say in the community. And I think that's the beauty of this new space in Web3, where users can finally be like potentially compensated for their time and directly connected. And that's something that I think will ultimately drive a more equal world, especially for feminists.
Yeah, I also think that, you know, the most powerful companies that have emerged from Web 2 are all run by men. So I see that as problematic. Like, you know, over half of the population, you know, I think we have some great entrepreneurs. So I'd love to see just more diversity at the top of these companies that do have a lot of power, even if the power isn't as centralized as we've seen in some of these Web 2 companies.
I agree, and I think we are starting to see more women in the tech space, and you know what I mean, more founders and startups being run. And I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada, and I'm seeing that growing here quite a bit. They call us, you know, kind of like the tech center, like the Silicon Valley of the North. But we are starting to see that here, and it's so great to see that young women are being educated and being told from, you know, younger that they are okay to get into that space and that they can be a CEO of a company. They don't have to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom, you know what I mean? And you can be a CEO and you can still have a family. And I think that's something that's very important to educate the younger generations on too. But also, I don't think there's an age limit. I think the pandemic has really showed us that, you know, people have, you know, worked 25 years in a company and lost their jobs and rerouted their whole entire life and started something new. And I think a lot of people, you know, it was a blessing in disguise. And I think it kind of gave them that little, you know, kick in the butt, or that fire, lit the fire underneath them to get them going. And I know so many people have started to think of, you know, this used to be a passion project, but turn it into their main job. And a lot of that was tech focused because the pandemic, I think, pushed everything, you know, forward so many years. Like, you know, think about health tech, you know, for example, I think that was a big one. I think it was always coming and was always in the plans, but the pandemic sped that up really fast. And now I think since everything else is going so fast because of a result, you know, everything else is like that we had planned for the next 5 years is, oh, well, let's get on it now. And everyone's working towards it. And it's just developing so fast. But that's the thing about tech. And Susan, you mentioned your first company that you started with failed. But, you know, that's what happens in the tech industry. And if you're going to start something, you're going to fail at least 5-10 times before you get it right. Right. And that's something that I think is very important to know. And that's why it's not built for everyone at the beginning, because you have to be able to, you know, it's a roller coaster. There's ups and downs and you got to live through it all. And I think that's something we see in Web3 too, you know. And so I think it's very important to always pick up and keep moving forward and take those failures as learning, right? And maybe it was something, yeah, like this is just not going to work. So then you move on and you got a new idea. So I think that's something that's really important. But I think we need to focus on the education too. Like you said, Brittany, we got to be able to protect our data and what we are putting out there. And I think that's something that a lot of people are getting in this space, but there's not as much education and resources out there to help them actually be able to protect themselves. So I know with feminists too, like we've partnered with them and we're really trying to help educate their community and our community and females everywhere around the world to, you know, that they can be in this space too. So, and give them the resources. And I love that about you guys, Kyla.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think it's like beyond like education, because I think ultimately, you know, we're all products of the internet. We all know how to Google, but it's also about accessibility and it's about meeting the community where they're at. So where are feminists? Perhaps they're on one platform more than the other. Why is so much of this information about Web3 shared in platforms that aren't necessarily like safe spaces for women or people of color or the queer community. And so I think when it comes to like how we get more people on board or like get more people like feeling comfortable in the space, it's meeting them where they're at and also creating the safe space to have open dialogue and facilitating a space that feels like no question is a bad question and that the room is the smartest person in the room. So yeah, from the community perspective, that's what we're focused on, is building those spaces where people can ask those questions and figure out how to join and come together to build.
I love that, bringing everyone up together.
Yeah, I really love that, because I think a lot of times when you just enter a lot of like discords or communities, even just Twitter, it's really male dominant, and there's you know, the stereotype of the crypto bro like stereotype, and it's hard for women to just enter in and feel comfortable. So it's awesome that you're kind of helping create that community.
Susan, I wanted to ask you, because I know you you had a background in crypto. You started in crypto quite early. And as a woman getting in this space, like, how did you get into it? Because for me, I know like my brother was in it and he was like, oh, you guys should get in it. But none of my friends, no women or girls that I knew were in that space. And it was only men that I had known that had talked about it. And for me, I just felt so intimidated by it, because anyone that I knew was a male in the space, and whenever I would talk to them, I felt like they couldn't like talk, they couldn't like give it to me at a level that I could understand and explain it. And so I was just intimidated and didn't, you know, just didn't try and look into it, because I was like, oh, like I don't get it, and no one was trying to help me, and I couldn't find any resources that really, like Kyla said, like really helped at the level that I was at, that I could you know, interpret it from. So I'm curious to know like how you got into that space early.
Yeah, and I completely agree and understand too. That's kind of like how I got into. I went to Carnegie Mellon, which is very like techie, nerdy school. And when I was in college, I had friends who were guys who were, you know, mining Bitcoin, trying to like mine Bitcoin and all that stuff back in the day in 2013, 2014. So that's kind of how I first started to hear about it. And then I kind of dove into reading the white paper and just trying to understand, and being in, you know, that time there wasn't as much stuff going on Twitter yet, I think. And so it was more like trying to find people on like Facebook Messenger and like talking with groups like that. And you know, that group has turned into a Discord now, and we've done a couple of projects in the DeFi space and NFT space. But it was really kind of talking to people and not letting men kind of talk you down, or because they were at the same level of me as in knowledge and understanding, except they were kind of talking about it as if they knew more, or like as if they were experts. So, you know, I think it's always like, don't be nervous when just because you're not speaking up as a woman, because there's so many males in this space, not to think that you know less than those people, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was just a lot of pushing through and making sure, like, you know, I knew what I was doing and my knowledge was, you know, at a level where I was happy with, and not letting like other people affect me, or thinking like, oh, I don't know as much as them, or oh, I'm going to stop looking into it because I don't know as much. Yeah.
Yeah, never let the mansplain get to you. We call it that for a reason.
Yeah, because well, at the end of the day, like I did get in this space. Like I got in the tech space from like some really close male friends of mine, my mentor too. And so I always feel like I have to educate, and I, you know, and tell everyone, like all my friends about it, and try and get everyone involved, because I think that it is the future. You know, it's inevitable. We know it's coming. And I think like they're missing out on my friends, like you need to be in this space, you're missing out. Like there's so much potential, and it's, you know, it's really limitless. And I do believe that there's room for everyone at the table. And I think Lori in the panel before had mentioned that not only at the table, but to see everyone soar above the table. And I think like that was so beautifully put. And I completely agree with her. I think, yeah, we can all be here and there's space for everyone. And that's something that I hope to see and hope we can create together too at the end of the day. And we are seeing that in some of the communities. I know we're very fortunate in the Women Rise NFT community that we have built on Discord and Twitter, that we have a great group of people, men and women, that support us. And, you know, we're very fortunate to have that. I know some communities aren't all the same, but yeah, we appreciate everyone's support, and we hope that we can all be there together, you know.
I would love to also hear from Vanessa's perspective. I feel like she has such a different experience because so I would just love to hear what it was like for you and even now.
So, you know, I've always had really great experience, you know, whether it was in financial services or Web3. I never felt kind of out of place. I was always, you know, respected in what I was doing, and never felt like I was not, you know, heard, or that my point of view was not taken into account. So that has been my experience. I know that it's not the experience of everyone in the space, and sometimes the numbers can be overwhelming in Web3. You know, it's the confluence of financial services and tech. So that's a very largely male-dominated issue. I do think that there needs to be more safe spaces like Women Rise, like more opportunities for people to engage, whether it's women or the minorities or people with just different interests and non-tech backgrounds. I think for the tech, if we start with education and ensure that we get the number of women developers up, it would be such an amazing impact, because, you know, my experience with, you know, CEOs and founders of tech startups is that the tech background is highly valued, and reasonably so. And so if we're able to get more women graduating from computer science and just, you know, participating in these startups and having the opportunity to lead their own startup, I think that would make a huge difference. I don't know whether it's, you know, increasing scholarships, whether it's raising awareness, even, you know, in younger populations, whether it's high school, etc., because you can learn to code pretty easily and pretty at a young age. So I think there's a huge opportunity there to raise awareness, and also the economic opportunity. I feel like, you know, women are missing out on a lot of the economic opportunities to be engaged in tech. And it was the same in finance, and we saw some women, you know, opt out at some point in their career. So it's not only, you know, entry of the career, but also at some point later on in their career. And how do we solve for that? I think building communities globally and having those safe spaces is going to be key to the success.
Welcome back, Brittany. And I completely agree with you on that too, Vanessa. I think that kind of leads into another point and a question that we did have. And oh, sorry, just was reading the comment here. That's really nice, Marina. But I think, sorry, leads me into the other question that we did have here, is that I think you pointed out, yeah, like there's so many areas in Web 3.0, and there's different pieces to it. You know, software engineers, developers, businesswomen, businessmen, but we also have so many other aspects for NFTs, specifically, like musicians, artists, architects, designers, authors, you know, everyone really. There's a place for everyone in the field. And I think you had mentioned whether that be coders, you know, I'm curious to know if there was one field that you could name within Web 3.0, what would you think that girls or women should definitely look into to start bridging the gender gap?
Yeah, well, I think, to your point, this is like you don't have to be technical to be involved in Web3. I think even more so than ever before. If you look at some of the largest emerging spaces, they're DAOs. And if you're not familiar with a DAO, it's DAO. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. And this means that it's a group of people coming together to reach a common goal. Usually that involves like raising some capital financing to fund whatever they want to do, and then coordinating to do something big. So for example, there was a Constitution DAO recently where people are trying to collectively come together to purchase a copy of the Constitution that went to auction. So DAOs can be any sort of thing, but the key asset that you need in this economy is good communication skills, good community building skills, working with people from all over the world. You may never see their real face. They may just always be an avatar to you. It's really essential to try and communicate what's happening, what's going on, how people can get involved, how people can work together to achieve these really audacious big goals. So I think even beyond coding, which is kind of communicating with a computer with code, I think communicating just with individuals, getting people organized is a really, really hard thing to do. And we've seen the people who are really good at it rise in this ecosystem. People who are good at organizing ideas, communicating through things like Twitter or social media or writing content, they're getting a lot of the attention. So I think it's just some basic skills that you learn in elementary school are what is going to serve you well. But the main thing is just to get started, even if it's as small as buying, your first NFT, or even just looking at how do you even do that? How do you set up a wallet? How do you go through that? Those skills are not easy or innate to anyone. Until you do it for the first time, it's going to be new. I've been in the space for a very long time, and I still learn new things every single day. I feel stupid all the time at all the things I don't know. So don't feel like you have to master it or really, know everything to get involved. I think just getting started, even just like with a very small amount of put $20 in your Stacks wallet and see if you can go buy an NFT and make all the mistakes that you need to learn that. But getting involved should be easier than ever. It may be overwhelming at first, so just start somewhere, and then once you get your feet in place, you can go any other places. But that's my view. I don't know what everyone else thinks too.
I just want to add on to that. Yeah, I remember back in the day, it was so difficult to get fiat into crypto. Like I spent days like getting the KYC. Anyways, so I think it's so much easier for people to get involved in the space now. So definitely get after it. I think on top of what Brittany was saying around building the community, I think you as a person need to really hone in on your growth mindset and be curious and just get after it, because the way that I've been successful in, projects or meeting people through the space is just to not be afraid and have the confidence to reach out to people, start conversations, and, even with the community building, posting your thoughts and just getting after it. So I think that growth mindset is going to be super important, and having that confidence to just get in there.
Sorry, I was muted. Kai?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like thinking about how like you mentioned, like get after it, things like that. I can't help but look at like how our society is really like, and what's like made things go further are like, thought leaders who are activists, educators, ultimately change makers, and how they're commonly like, even though they're creating like a space and this like, changing the way people think on a daily basis, even think about from last year to this year, the way we operate and think about things, and the dreaming of this sort of opportunity to be realistic within touch is due to these people. And they're commonly undervalued by the way our system is set up. So when I think about like tangible ways like these people can come on board, I immediately think like, of course, artists could sell NFTs And of course, activists or educators don't need like institutions between them to like raise money for causes or even just get the word out. So, and that can be in the form of, you know, I think it's more like the basis of where the blockchain is that it's not about taking a seat at the table, it's about building the table with your community. And I think that's the beauty of like what we're all probably about here, is that it's all about the connection and kind of, yeah, eliminating middlemen and yeah, creating that space for opportunity.
I love that. I love that you said building table. Sorry, and it's so true that I believe that too. You know, I think that, sorry, my AirPods just died again. But no, I think it's so true that we can build it together. And you know what? I thought I used to know the definition of community until I started in the tech space, and until I really got into the NFT communities. Brings a whole nother definition to community, and what I thought I knew about it, not at all. Like, you don't know. I think you don't really truly know it until you've been in some spaces and communities, and you can really feel the sense of, you know, just like it's like a sisterhood we've created. And I think it's something, there's always someone there. There's always someone to talk to. And there's some people that I know, myself, for example, at the beginning, I would always be a lurker in like Twitter spaces and things. And I would be, you know, but I think that's the first step that Brittany mentioned too. And all of you really mentioned that, you know, first thing is to just do it, just to ask questions and just to put yourself in it. And that's your first step. Take that first step to get involved. And I think for myself, yeah, the first step, you know, you join the Discords and you go into some Twitter spaces, and we don't say anything at the beginning. Well, I didn't at the beginning, at least. And I think that's something, you know, and then when you get comfortable, or when, you know, someone else says something, then you just join in, and then it's so lovely after that. And I think you feel, you know, it's such a relief once you have kind of said something. It's so interesting because, like how you put it, like sometimes you never meet these people face to face, you know, you don't even know who they are because it is an avatar for the most part behind. I haven't even met Malia, like our team. You know, we've been working on this project for a while, and I only know Kat in person. Malia and Aski and Sodi, you know, we've met obviously over Zoom, FaceTime, everything, but we've never physically been in person meeting, which is to people not in the tech world and the NFT space and Web 3.0, it's like mind-blowing to them. But for us, I think for, you know, people in the community, we're kind of used to it by now. It's kind of funny, but we joke about it that we've never really met. I get some FOMO because I didn't go to New York with Kat and Malia when they met. So we're down for a meetup for sure. But I think, yeah, you just have to dive in and ask the questions. And you're right, Kai, like we need to build the communities together, build that table with our community.
The other thing I want to stress about communities is how important it is for these projects to create new products. So there's an incredible book called Invisible Women, and it's about the data bias in Web 2.0 and which data are the product decision based on, and they're always geared towards the dominating, you know, element, which is the men. And this data bias could be avoided in community-driven initiatives if that is something that is top of mind and that is highlighted, whether it's creating specific products for specific communities or avoiding that bias. So I think if, you know, through a decentralized model, we're able to achieve that and have a different perspective on how we create products and create value for people and communities, I think that will be a great achievement. but just having that top of mind and having that, being the old model, and hopefully making a new way of creating products and experiences will be the way to go. And Women Rise is sort of the epiphany for that, creating NFTs by women for women. If you look at the current NFT landscape and the type of art that is, you can't help but wonder how much masculine traits it sort of values. Like, I don't want to be a bored ape. That's very clear to me, at least from personal expertise. Doesn't mean that it's not a phenomenon, that it's not something, but we see that bias still very much alive, even in the NFT space today.
Yeah, I agree with you. We still do see that. I think we can wrap it up with our last question too. I mean, I feel like we could probably all sit here and talk forever. But I think really at the end of the day, it's no secret that, we don't make the gender parity in this space or in really Web 2.0. So what do you ladies think, like, how can we fix that moving forward? I think we've already kind of touched a little bit on it too, but just wanted to go over just your final points on it. If anyone had anything to add.
Yeah, so I always point at the education part, which I think is crucial, but also a little bit the community, and making sure that we raise awareness about these biases. I don't want to sound like an old veteran, but I feel like a lot of like the new generations coming in have a lot of faith in our society being equal, and it's aspirational. But if you look at the reality of the workplace, or other communities, that is not the case. And so coming in with eyes wide open, especially as you start your career, and making sure that you're not cornered into something, or you don't display behaviors that may have others react to it, is kind of super important. And I think I would love to have that fresh eye, but I see a lot of biases still in the workplace for advancement of women. As throughout the years, it's competitive for everyone. And I think people need to realize that it's a competitive environment in the workplace. Hopefully in Web3, it's much more, it's different, and people are really able to be valued for all their contributions. But I want all the women who come in and graduate and come into the workplace be very conscious of what they're getting themselves into, and also take action and be proactive and be curious and lean in into that.
Totally agree. Oh,
Yeah. I was just gonna kind of make a note on like competition and things like that in the space. And I think ultimately, like, we've seen a shift. I don't know if everyone else feels this way, but like certain industries, like there's more women on the team than men, and that kind of creates a sense of like camaraderie and people helping each other and like building each other up in a way. And I think that like when it comes to like especially like education and understanding like how Web3 works, and like preventing maybe like repeating some systems of like competition, could be like leaning on mentors, leaning on like a close-knit community, and like leaning on close-knit friends that you can ask questions to, because ultimately like we can all bring each other up by just sharing information. And going back to like Vanessa's point of education being key, that's really essential. And also making it accessible with our like safe circle.
Yep. And just to add on to that, I think Vanessa brought up the point. Education, I think 100% is key. And she brought up the point of like how she doesn't want to be a bored ape and all that stuff. And I totally get that. It's easy to get sucked into that world really easily, especially in these discords and communities of just, pushing, good morning, wag me type of things. But, I think it's important that, you stay true to yourself, and it's okay to join those communities as long as, you do bring in that perspective and make sure not to lose your confidence or get mansplained and things like that in those. So it's okay to join those, especially if it's interesting and fun for you. But yeah, just make sure to bring in that perspective and continue educating yourself and educating others too. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. And anyone listening, like, you have allies here. Like, all of us are here on this panel because we care about this issue. We care that people have a really great experience in Web3, want to build here, want to be part of it, want to like get more involved. So if we can help in any way, like, that's what we're here for. Fortunately, probably the bad experiences will be a small percentage versus the good. But if you do run into those, I'm sure everyone here has their own stories of bad experiences, but those are the minor. Like, the reason that I've stuck around here so long is because there's so many amazing things happening and so many helpful people along the way that really want to make it a good experience. And no matter what your passion is, whether it's, girls' education, like Women Rise, or art, or AI, or technology, whatever you care about, there's probably a community for you that is filled with people who are there with, open arms to welcome you, and don't care what your gender is, or don't care if you even show up as like some avatar and never give your real name and just kind of have some pseudo identity. That's what's cool about the internet, is that you can show up the way that you want to, but you also have like an exit path. If you're like, this is not a space for me, or I don't feel safe here, you can always exit, and you can always lean on other allies who can be helpful if it does turn into something worse. So I'm very optimistic, but I've been in tech for a very long time. I've been in a lot of women in tech panels, women in VC panels, women who've raised capital panels. We're still the minority, but it's gotten so much better, and I'm really just optimistic that we will continue as a collective, all of us here, just breaking down those barriers to make it even better for the next group.
Thanks, ladies. Yeah, I completely agree with all your points, and I think education is definitely at a forefront too, to make sure that we are educating everyone in this space. But I think you make a good point, Brittany, that there is a space for everyone, no matter what your interest is. There is somewhere a community out there for you, and it's just finding that community, what aligns with you, and staying true to yourself. And so I'm really happy that you brought that up, because yeah, you might join one and realize that someone tells you, oh, join this one, and one of your friends tells you, or you see it on someone else's Twitter, they're promoting it, and you join it, and that's not the one for you. And I think you don't need to stay in it. You can leave, you can join a new one, and just not to get discouraged too. And really stay true to yourself and figure out what that is that you want to support and what community that you want to be part of. It is key, and making sure that you are doing your due diligence in the projects too that are out there, like you would in anything. Right. And so I think that that's really important to do, and ask those questions, no matter how maybe I don't want to say stupid or dumb, but how lower they might be, more novice questions. I think it's important to ask them, and people will respond and help you at the end of the day. So yeah, I just want to point out that we do have for everyone who's in the chat and listening, we did put all these wonderful speakers, all their Twitter and their contact info in the chat. It'll also be listed down below in the video too. So you can definitely follow along with them too. But is there anything else you ladies wanted to add? Anything you're looking forward to? I just kind of wrap it up. We've been on for like an hour, but that you're really excited that's happening in the tech space, what you're looking forward to that's coming, or just any last closing remarks.
I'll give a last pitch for Stacks Foundation.
Yeah.
I have the very fun job that we have a large treasury to fund grants. Now, this can be any small idea or big idea. It's a great way to get started. If you have an idea, something you want to pursue, we give out equity-free grants. They're as small as like $1,000 up to $100,000. And so if you have an idea you're kicking around, I would love to see more people, especially more women, apply for these grants. And like I said, I get the very fun job of helping people build their ideas. So check out stacks.org. That's our website, and you can learn more about the grants, and hope to meet more of you builders out there.
On the same vein, like if you guys are looking for a job in Web3, I work with 100 portfolio companies and they're all hiring like crazy. So don't hesitate to go on our website. We have all the job openings available, and contact me. And there's tons of opportunities, whether you're have a tech background or any other background. It's really open and it's great opportunities. So don't hesitate.
And I'll say that the blockchain is a feminist opportunity, and I think it's the chance for us to really build an economy like built by feminists for feminists, and that's inclusive of all people who are just anti the patriarchy. So ultimately, that's where like the optimism lies. And at Feminist on Instagram, we're expanding our community and our platform, and we're building a safe space on Geneva that we'll be announcing soon, and everyone can join on and ask all their questions and connect with other feminists around the globe.
Thank you.
I'm not going to put in a plug for Google, obviously, but I love all these opportunities the women on this call have said, and just thank you to Women Rise for, bringing us together. I feel so inspired just I feel so inspired just being here. So thank you everyone for, making me feel even more inspired by the day.
Well, I just want to wrap it up from Women Rise too. We just want to thank you all for joining us on this panel. We've just had a wonderful talk, and I think have raised some questions too for the community. And we're so excited. We're launching in 2 days. So we can't wait. With that being said, thanks again, ladies, for joining us. And we'll have all your links down below too for everyone else who wants to follow them and learn more about our lovely speakers here. So I'm going to just end the broadcast now. Thank you.